This episode of Print from the Past is one that I've been looking forward to doing for many months. I have had this magazine, I believe, since very early this year, and I've been waiting to open it. But I wanted to wait because it is a November issue of a magazine, and I wanted to wait until November to tear the plastic off and to talk about it. This is a magazine from way back, from when I was 20 years old. So we're going all the way back to November of 1992. During that time, I was living just outside of Worcester, Massachusetts, in a town called Oxford. I was working for AT&T as a long-distance operator. My job was to sit in front of a computer with a headset on, and when people would collect calls or people would make calls from payphones, it would be my responsibility to connect those calls and sometimes to collect money. It was my first legitimate, real, full-time job, and I was making pretty decent money, and I was in a good living situation. I was living with really good friends. We were never going to be in trouble financially, really. We just paid our rent, and we had a couple of bills, and we had a lot of spending money, so I bought a lot of stuff at that age. In 1992, I have told the story, just a few months prior in 92, I had actually bought a copy of Street Fighter II for the Super Nintendo, and I wound up buying that instead of paying my car insurance. I was just 20 back then. I did not know any better. I was a dumb kid. I am much better with that now. I pay my bills first and get my gaming stuff later. But nevertheless, I had my Super Nintendo. I had my Genesis. I was a very happy video game fan. And the way that we found out about video game information back then, because there was no internet, or at least none that I had, was through video game magazines like the one we're going to be opening today. Again, this is the November 1992 issue, and it has Super Star Wars on the cover, and there's also some free stuff in there. There is a free issue of Sega Force. Shout out to GameSack, because this is Joe's favorite, the Sega Genesis related stuff, and there are a bunch of previews here, but the Super Star Wars cover is really what got my attention when I saw this on the newsstand, and I did buy it on the newsstand when it had come out, and I don't think it came in a package like this, although it might have. It's been many years since, 28 years since, so it has been quite a while. There's also, and I don't know if you can see it, there is a Dragon's Fury poster in here too. The thing that's interesting about November and December issues of video game magazines back then is these were the holiday issues. These were the magazines that got you set for the fourth quarter rush of games that would come out for the holidays. So there was a lot to talk about. There were a lot of reviews in here, and the magazine is thick. I don't know if you can see it, but I mean, that's massive. And I know that the seal is partially coming off, which is why I'm opening this. The seal is not held up very well over the last few months, so I want to go ahead and get this opened up and see what is on the inside. So we're going to do that. This is practically open already, so we're just going to kind of rip down the side here, and then we're going to take the magazine out and see what is on the inside. And we will see what's in the magazine together. So let's take that and put that over here. And we'll take a look first at the poster. So this is the poster. Oh gosh, yeah, I want to put that up. Let me just kind of wheel back a little bit. So that's the poster right there. That is really, really cool. I want to be able to hang that up. Maybe I'll hang that up in the office, or maybe out where I do my teaching. There's also an ad, or a full-page ad here for Tengen stuff. You can see RBI Baseball 4 down there. And what else do we have? We have some Game Gear stuff, Paperboy 2, but that's not what I'm going to be hanging up. Oh no, this is all about the poster, and I can't wait to get that hung up. That is awesome. Also on the inside here, we have an ad for Electronics Boutique. This is the October 1992 catalog, and because of the way my camera is, I'm reading everything backwards, so don't mind me if I'm kind of looking back and forth. The Super Nintendo, just $100 back then. You also had the Genesis, which I believe was also $100 and was selling with Sonic 2. We'll be doing a Sega Visions magazine opening very soon that talks about Sonic 2, but that's a preview for another time. There's also some PC stuff down at the bottom. Computer Conquest. There are some 3.25 inch, 3.5 inch floppies, I should say. So we have a lot of stuff to look at in this magazine here, including some Super Nintendo games, like we have Legend of Zelda, we have Super Mario Kart, I believe, NCAA basketball. I don't have my ref shirt on, but I'd love to talk about that. Super Mario World and F-Zero are just a few. The cartridge prices look like they're somewhere in the $50 to $60 range, anywhere between $52 and $55, it looks like. In the Super Nintendo, again, just $100 back then, but you were just getting the control set. You weren't getting any game with it. And we have even more stuff here. So again, keeping in mind the year, we have SimCity, Street Fighter 2, of course. I've talked about that. Mario Paint is here, Pilot Wings. And these prices are great. I'm going to take a picture of some of these for Twitter later on just to share some of these images. This is pretty awesome. More Super Nintendo games. There is my favorite RPG of all time, Final Fantasy II. That is still $70. That's not cheap. Also, Axelay, one of my favorite shooters of all time, or STGs of all time, that is listed here. The Skins game, I believe. I'm trying to look based on box art. Rampart is here. Super Batter Up, which I've talked about on Twitter before, fantastic baseball game. That's basically the Super Nintendo version of RBI Baseball. So all this great stuff. And this is from '92, so this is only a year after the Super Nintendo had come out. So it was already developing quite a lineup of games. And then, of course, for you Sega Genesis fans, we have a bunch of games here. We have Sports Talk Football '93, I believe, with Joe Montana. We have that right there. It looks like a mock-up cartridge. Sports Talk Baseball as well. Sports Talk, one of my favorite parts of Genesis history, being a sports presentation guy. I was always impressed with the Sports Talk program and being able to hear running commentary in baseball games. Also, speaking of GameSack, we have a picture of Green Dog. Green Dog is selling for $44.99 in this particular magazine, or catalog, I should say. Going down the list, we have the Genesis Deluxe System for $130 right there. Kid Chameleon for $52. I mean, this is awesome. I probably will go over this in a Christmas episode, maybe a little bit later on. But there's just tons of great stuff in here. Super High Impact Football for $50. Team USA Basketball for $50, and I have that complete along with the Team USA Basketball collector cards that are in there. RBI Baseball 4, Batman for the Genesis as well. We also have TurboGrafx and NES sections. TurboGrafx 16 was going for just $70 back then. You have to pay more for that now than you did then. The Turbo Express was selling for $200. Soldier Blade and Newtopia 2 are a couple of the games that are listed as well. And on the NES side of the house, the NES was selling for $90. So you could pay $100 for the 16-bitter or $90 for the 8-bitter. It was completely up to you. Super Mario 3, Tetris, Yoshi, those are all represented. And I'll go over more of the... I mean, I could spend an entire episode talking about these, just breaking down the magazine. I really do have to do this. Maybe I'll do this for Instagram or for Twitter or something and just break down the magazine and talk about some of the cool stuff in there. So this catalog, the 1992 October catalog, really getting you ready for the fourth quarter. This was also included in the package. So let's look at the magazine itself. The magazine is a whopping 273 pages. We're not going to look at all of this, I don't think, today. But just, I mean, look at all that. That's insane. There's an ad for Contra Force here. Right on the inside, the war to end all wars. Oh, that ended it, all right. That ended Contra for the NES before we went to Contra 3 for the Super Nintendo. Faceball 2000. Let's see what else we've got. Oh, there's a pullout in there. Let me see. Oh, yeah. It's kind of a pullout. This is what the Sega Force issue looks like. It's a magazine within a magazine. There's Sonic 2 right there. I love the red instead of the blue. That certainly stands out, I think, just a little bit. But we'll get to that. When I used to get this magazine, the first thing that I would do is I would flip to the reviews section, because we didn't have a way to look at video game reviews online back then. this is what I used. This right here, and as a matter of fact, this very magazine was what I would often use to determine what games I would be setting aside money to buy. Granted, this is a lot different today, and you may decide to do different things to determine how you're going to spend your money, whether it's watching gameplay videos or following YouTubers or folks on Twitch. But back in 1992, this was the way that we found out what to buy. And Super Star Wars is the main event, and as you can see, that's all 9s. That game is tough. Super Star Wars is very tough, but what really stood out during this time frame, A, the visuals were really impressive, B, the music was just amazing, and C, you got to play out some of the best parts of the original Star Wars, the New Hope, and you got to play expanded sections of the Star Wars universe within the game. Now, granted, a lot of it felt like a rather difficult platformer rather than anything else, but there were Mode 7 sections for the Land Speeder and for the Death Star Trench, and this is well before a game like Rogue Squadron 2, Rogue Leader would come out, which would really take us down the Death Star Trench and make us feel closer to the movie than ever before. Looking at the reviews of the game, Steve Harris says, quote, "Although the game has a few problems with its control and execution, the package is presented in a near flawless manner." That's what I was just saying. "The graphics are absolutely incredible and complemented with strong gameplay action and good technique. The game is simplistic in design, but the quality of the design is second to none. It's a winner." Sushi X says, "Super Star Wars is destined to become a Super NES classic over the next year. With the graphically intense backdrops, interstellar sounds, and a proven storyline, what else could you expect? The grandfather of epics is making the video game transformation exceptionally well. Do we thank the Force?" Just really, really strong stuff. I've beaten Super Star Wars because I kind of cheated, but it is available, by the way, for the PlayStation 4. You can actually buy that, I believe, from the PlayStation Store, and it is faithful to the Super Nintendo original. So if you're looking to try and get it and you don't have a Super Nintendo, that is one way that you can do so. Other games that we have reviewed in this issue, Blazion, which got 3 7s and a 5, Wordtris, for reasons unknown, Amazing Tennis, 6775, Spin Dizzy Worlds got 7878, Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. I will go to bat for Final Fantasy Mystic Quest until I am dead and buried in the ground. Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, in my personal opinion, and again, doesn't necessarily agree with yours, but in my personal opinion, does what it set out to do. The whole idea of Final Fantasy Mystic Quest was to produce a very entry-level RPG for people to be able to be introduced to the concept and be able to understand how the games play. It's kind of like baby's first RPG, except it's a little more mature than that. Some YouTube personalities really tend to take a dump on this game, but I don't. Is it very simple? Yes. Is it rudimentary? Sure. Is the storyline kind of silly or kind of basic? Fine. I'll grant you that. But the music is quite good. The combat is pretty much what you'd expect for RPGs during this time period. And I think visually it looks just fine. It maybe look a little silly at times, but I really think that it does what it set out to do. So I think the game does deserve some credit. And in this particular issue of EGM, it does get some credit. 3 7s and an 8, so that's not bad. That's a 7.25, I believe, average. And I think that's right there. I think that the game is pretty enjoyable. It is a little bit on the easy side, so if you're an RPG master or you've played a lot of them, there's nothing here for you really. But if you haven't played an RPG before, there are worse places to start than that one. Super Mario Kart is also here. I'll show you real quick. There is the Super Mario Kart review, and it's reviewed very strongly, as a lot of Nintendo's first-party games were, with 2 9s and 2 8s. Really positive feedback on the game. Another hit for Nintendo. They may not make many games in a year, but the ones they do are spectacular. Cute looking, but not a cakewalk, as this is a game that requires lots of technique to master. Fun for the kids, but challenging enough for those who take their racing seriously. A definite must-have, and that holds true today, some 28 years later. The original Super Mario Kart is still very much a must-play if you can. It's available, I believe, on the... Well, you can't get it on the Wii Virtual Console anymore, but I think you might be able to get it for the Wii U Virtual Console. Well, that's still a thing. And you can still play it on the 3DS Virtual Console as well. And I think it's available on the Nintendo Switch Super Nintendo application. So plenty of ways to play it, and it's definitely worth a visit, or for those of you who have played it in the past, a revisit. What else do we have here? And 15 minutes just blows by. For the Genesis, we have Tyrants, we have Sports Talk Football. Sports Talk Football, the game that convinced me that Genesis is for real. 2 8s and 2 7s for Sports Talk Football. While the Madden series have always been my favorite football games, Sega is making some strides in the right direction with this soft being game. The gloss is heaped on in the second sequel. So yeah, this is Sports Talk Football 93. It has to be. The gloss is heaped on in the second sequel, and with many new features being joined by an official NFL license. The play control still comes up short, however, although it's an improvement. And that's true. That is one of the big knocks on Joe Montana versus Madden, is that they play a little bit differently, and Madden tends to be more simulation aspected and a little bit easier to grasp, whereas the gameplay in the Joe Montana games / Sports Talk games tended to be just a little bit more loose. But again, I digress. I loved both, and I did buy both every year. I also want to point out here this ad for Interplay, and there's a game for the Game Boy called Track Meet, which is kind of like a track and field-ish kind of game. That's one of the games that I bought for my Game Boy that year, and I really enjoyed that. I'm one of those crazy button masher types, so I had a good time playing that. For the Turbo Graphics or Turbo Duo, we have a couple of games here, including Gate of Thunder, another one that Joe from GameSack has talked about time and time again, with 2 9s and 2 8s. Fantastic game. Also, Airzog is covered here too. And we get a little advertisement for Star Wars for the Game Boy. Game Boy, of course, still very prevalent in 1992. We have a Game Gear Lemmings review. Joe and Mac for the Game Boy getting 2 8s, a 7, and a 6. So I believe it's a 16 and 13, 29 divided by 4. I can't do the math. NFL football for the Lynx. Oh, goodness me. The Lynx. Something I should probably talk about later on. You can see the reviews, though, aren't great. 4.656 there. Man, there's just so much to go over here. This really cool shark ad for the ASCII pad. And then, of course, this was something else I looked forward to every month. This would kind of give you a rundown of the games that are coming out, and I would circle the games that I was interested in getting, or I would check off the games that I'd already bought. And there's an ad there for NHLPA Hockey 93. EASN is still the thing. It is not EA Sports just yet. This was before ESPN was threatening legal action, so it was the Electronic Arts Sports Network, which was obviously a rip on ESPN. Speaking of EASN, we have an EASN patch that I would love to find, talking about John Madden Football 93 here. Football's greatest lineup ever. The John Madden games for the Genesis, just remarkable games, really. And to see those games grow and expand from the first game until 98 really was a trip to sit through. EGM's Top 10s, sponsored by Babbage's. These will be fun to take a look at. For the NES, number 10 was Final Fantasy. Number 9, Blue Marlin. Number 8, Dragon Warrior 3. Number 7, Dr. Mario. Number 6, TMNT 3, The Manhattan Project. Arguably the best of the 3 TMNT games, although some of you TMNT 2, the arcade game fans, may disagree. Number 5 is Tetris. Number 4, Super Mario 2. Number 3, Super Mario 3. Number 2, Yoshi, because reasons. And the number 1 game, Tecmo Super Bowl. For the Super Nintendo, number 10, Top Gear. Number 9, Final Fantasy 2. Number 8, Super Bowling, which is a little underrated, and I believe is from SNK. Number 7, Contra 3, fantastic game. Number 6, Magic Sword. Number 5, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. Number 4, Street Fighter 2. Number 3, Super Play Action Football. What is wrong with you people? Number 2, Mario Paint. And number 1, TMNT 4, Turtles in Time. For the Genesis, number 10, PGA Tour Golf. Number 9, Desert Strike. Number 8, Super High Impact. Number 7, Alien 3. Number 6, Bulls vs. Lakers. Number 5, John Madden Football 92. Number 4, Dungeons & Dragons. Number 3, Tasmania. Number 2, Sports Talk Football. And number 1, Evander Holyfield Boxing, which would eventually see a sequel called Greatest Heavyweights, which, by the way, is fantastic. If you have the ability to play a Genesis, you got to have that in your collection. One more here for the Game Boy. Number 10, Terminator 2. Number 9, Alleyway. Really? Number 8, Caesar's Palace. Number 7, NBA All-Star Challenge 2. Number 6, Tennis. Number 5, Dr. Mario. Number 4, just The Simpsons. I don't know which one. Number 3, Kirby's Dream Land. Number 2, Yoshi. And number 1, big surprise, Super Mario Land. So those are your top 10s for that month. More Electronics Boutique stuff here, and we went over the catalog, which is why we're already 20 minutes in. The gaming gossip section of EGM. What a cool thing this was. This was basically just the rumor bill. So before we had internet, this was the way that we kind of heard rumors, and maybe this will happen, and maybe that'll happen. And Quarterman was who we heard those rumors from. So let's see. Again, keeping in mind that this is from November of 2000. Let me try that again. November of 1992, and this went to press in October. So keep that in mind when we're going over some of these rumors. Let's see here. The Big N has nixed their plans to belly up against Sega's impending CD machine, privately indicating they don't see CD games being that different from regular carts. While this isn't a bad call in Quarterman's eyes, Nintendo is keeping their hands wet with the development of a 32-bit CD-ROM complete with a custom chipset they say could be ready by August of '93. Sega gets its head start again, but with the enhancements Nintendo is promising in their CD design, we might see the mighty mega power of gaming quickly taking over Sonic's home turf, but only if the unit proves to be more than smoke, which, of course, it did not. The PlayStation never happened. Nintendo backed out of its deal with Sony, and then kind of came to an understanding with Philips, and there was no CD-ROM drive for the Super Nintendo at all. Replacing Nintendo's next Super System is a Super Chip. The Terminators of Nintendo have developed proprietary code that enables the SNES to display higher quality 3D softs without the need for a hardware extension. The Super FX chip. Aha! The Super FX chip gives the Nintendo 16-bitter the power to deliver shaded polygon images through RISC-based technology. I believe that's reduced instruction set chip, I think. I might be wrong. You can correct me in the comments. Expect the first title to use the innovative ROMs to use... let me try that again. Expect the first title that uses the innovative ROMs to hit in February with a slew of third-party projects to follow. That first game, of course, would wind up being Star Fox, which came out, I believe, in April. So it was just a little bit later than that. It could have been March. Might have been March or April, right around there. In third-party games, there were a few, but not very many. The two most prominent Super FX games, or three really, were Star Fox, Stunt Race FX, and I believe that Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island uses the Super FX chip for certain things, although I could be wrong on that. Let's see. Talking about the Jaguar. Look for Tandy to promote their CDI driver soon with an Inspector Gadget game. I don't think that ever happened. Last thing here. While we're on the subject of game development, Sega plans to open a Midwest research and development house under the command of industry veteran Joe Robbins, who's late of Sunsoft. The group is looking to produce 2 carts and 1 CD project every year for the Genesis and could begin on Virtual Racing as their first multimedia project. Well, Virtual Racing was a thing, and they mentioned it for the Jaguar for some reason, but that's strange. So not a lot here except for the fact that the mention of the PlayStation project, which never was, and of course the mention of the Super FX chip, which certainly was a thing. Some ads here, Ultimate Fighter, Super Ninja Boy as well. I love just leafing through these and looking at the ads. I should just take my cell phone camera and just kind of go through this and do another video, and maybe that'll be later. Here's the article about the Super FX chip bringing 3D to Super Nintendo, and I believe that is Virtual Racing for some reason. Super NES 32-bit CD coming next year. Ah ha ha. No, that did not happen. Let's see what else we have here. Genesis and NES get modem gaming. The Telegenesis modem is what's listed there. Is that the X-Band down there? The Baton Teleplay Interactive System. That's what's listed down there. So even back in 1992, we were talking about getting online. We weren't really getting on the internet yet, but getting online, which had been a thing going back to CompuServe in the 80s, connecting with a phone line was something that we were starting to do back then. So it is not a surprise to see it. It just really didn't become prevalent for another decade or so. And there it is, virtual racing. It actually wound up being called Virtua Racing, but virtual racing will do. Played a lot of virtual racing in arcades. Always impressed by that polygonal look. And Virtua Racing 32X is one of the 2 games I got for my 32X, as well as Star Wars. Galaxian 3, the game I always wanted to play but never did. Bucky O'Hare is listed, as well as Final Lap 3. An ad for Wanderers from East 3. A lot of GameSack references in this particular episode of Print from the Past. Also have an ad for Airzonk. There it is right there. I'd love to talk more about the TurboGrafx 16. Then the Game Doctor, I believe, is Bill Kunkel. Bill kind of just answered some tech questions that people would have. See, I think the new Lynx looks cool. I was wondering if there's any way I could trade my old model Lynx for a new one. Hope you can help me out with this. According to the folks at Atari Customer Service, this is the answer from Kunkel. You can send them your old Lynx along with $55, and Atari will mail you a new model Lynx with full warranty. That's kind of cool. I never knew that was a thing. That's pretty cool. How is it possible that CD players can run video games is another question that's here. Maybe I'll do that for a future episode, as we are running short on time here. We're already 27 minutes in. So I can go through, I could spend an hour on this episode, and I'm not going to be able to do it. Spin Dizzy Worlds, RoboCop 3 on the back. I could spend, and I will. After this episode, I'm probably just going to sit and unwind and read this to myself and relive my childhood, or my young adulthood, really, because I was 20 years old at the time. The Joy Plus, remember that? The transforming Game Boy device? Oh, man, just so much stuff here. There's sports stuff. There's a preview here of Super Batter Up, which I wrote a review for Pat Contry's Super Nintendo book. A game that I really enjoyed, and again, it's as close to actual RBI baseball as we wound up getting. There's a little blurb here about Super Mario Kart as well. I actually did buy Super Mario Kart when it had come out, because it was a Nintendo game. That's just what you did. If it was Nintendo produced, you bought it. Between Nintendo and Konami, you knew that when you were buying one of those games, you were getting a good product, regardless of what it was. With the exception, of course, of Super Play Action Football, or Konami's NFL Football, which is also just a load of crap. Roadrunner's Death Valley Rally. Anyone remember that? I sure do. I'm a big Looney Tunes fan, so when that game came out, I bought that, and that was kind of a mistake. And it's not because it looks bad, because it looks great. If you're looking at the visuals here, it looks just like a cartoon, and really it animates just like a cartoon, but the movement is a little bit slow, and the game, sometimes it's not always obvious what to do or where to go. It's kind of like one of those where the heck do I go games, and that can be pretty frustrating at times. So that's a very brief look at Electronic Gaming Monthly from November 1992, and again, just a really cool stuff to look back at. And I do promise that I will be taking pictures of this issue, and I will be just talking about it more in the future, especially on Twitter and on Instagram and things like that. But to be able to open an issue like this that's brand new and be able to see all the stuff inside just sets off a ton of memories of where I was and what I was playing, And I still remember bringing Super Star Wars home. I remember getting it from Toys R Us in Auburn, Mass. It was just before they closed. I was getting out of work late. I ran down to Toys R Us, or I drove as fast as I could. I picked it up, I brought it home, and I played it until like 2 in the morning. I could not pull myself away. It was really that good. I had my Super Nintendo hooked up to a stereo system, so I'm like blaring it in the house, and my roommates were telling me to turn it down, and it was fantastic stuff. So many memories from that time frame. And it's always good with me pushing 50 years old now to be able to look back on that positively and feel just a little bit younger. So that is Electronic Gaming Monthly, November 1992. Thanks for watching this episode of Print from the Past. As fragmented as it was, I hope that you enjoyed it, at least part of it. And we'll do another one of these really soon when we take a look at a sealed copy of a Sega Visions magazine from November of '92 as well. Take care of yourselves and each other, my friends, and we'll talk soon.